Hello, welcome back to TOGcast. I hope you've all been well, and I hope you've all been anticipating this second episode we have at JARDIER. We get to chat about anything at all that we want, and yeah, he's such a happy, open guy to chat to. So, without further ado, here we go with part 2. I mean, you are a very positive person. It doesn't matter if I tune in on a Sunday night, a Monday night, a Friday night, you are always the same positivity. And it's such a great thing. And I think that's why so many people migrate towards you, because there's no toxicity. There's no, you can have a laugh. You can, slag people off in your community because you know them and things like that. But there's no negativity. How are you just generally a very positive person, or have you got a way of being really positive when you need to?
I mean, I would say I have it like every other person. Like, you have a good days and bad days.
Yeah,
And like, also the thing is, I like my silence when I'm home.
Yes.
Like, there's nobody home. I just like to be quiet and just, I don't know, do something and absolutely be quiet and such. But then, like, I take sim racing. Like, sim racing for me is like such a huge part of my life. I do it for, well, in 1 year it's gonna be 20 years.
Wow, yeah.
And or when I started, like, on and off.
Jeez.
And it literally, for me, there's nothing better. Like, there's sim racing, there's real racing, and there's there's nothing until, I don't know, gym or something, or like obviously my dog, my girlfriend are very high ranked, but the sim racing is like the top, and therefore, obviously, when I'm racing, when I'm streaming, I'm in a happy place because I'm doing something that I really like, So I would assume if you would meet me on the street, I might be like, might not be smiling. I might not look very happy. Or if you will talk to me somewhere, maybe offline or something, I might not be super happy all the time, or I might be tired, whatever. But the sim racing is literally like the happiest place for me. It's like. And there's absolutely no reason for me to be like pissed, obviously sometimes something happens when you're not happy, or like you have a bad race incident, whatever, some sort of impact of negativity from the chat or whatever, and it just goes on. But literally, like, it's not like I wouldn't say I like put a face or something when I go to stream. It's just like, I'm like, all right, guys, I'm finally in my rig, and I'm very happy. I want to race, and you guys are watching, and I just like, there's nothing better that could have happened right at this moment.
Absolutely.
So for me, like, how some people say, I would say, like, I like to relax with the book. Or some people say they like to relax in the gym, or walking with the dog and such. The sim racing itself and the stream is for me like my relax.
Absolutely.
So that's why I really don't try to bring negativity into it. Like, we can obviously talk about bad things like BOP or bad updates in a game or whatever, but still, like, genuinely, like, I'm in a happy place. That's basically, like, the sim rig is my safe place.
Absolutely.
And that's where I can be myself, and I can just enjoy the stuff I'm doing, and that's why the streams and everything is looking, as you said, like, very happy and very positive, because it's literally like, that's where I am in my happy place.
Absolutely. And you can tell from the minute you start to the minute you end. If anyone watches a streamer, there can sometimes be a dip in energy, regardless of what they're doing.
Too,
and there's times you're like, it's been a couple of minutes since I actually said something, because you're concentrating or something. You're like, oh my God, has everybody left, or is everybody still here? But it just comes through as positive. I have only seen you, I think, twice where you have been upset with something, and the other day in the Petite Le Mans was one of them, where you actually looked upset about what had happened. So basically, somebody, you were 3 wide. It was Valentine that was driving at the time. You were spectating, and this guy just absolutely sent it where there was no gap. There was nowhere to go, and absolutely destroyed the car, and that was the end of the race. When you come off, and obviously it doesn't happen very often, but obviously you're not in the best mood. Is there a way you can reset your mood, or a way you can just like leave it to the side and be happy again? Or because I know when I have a bad race, I'm horrendous for at least a couple hours after it. My partner knows not to speak to me or not to ask how it went. But Is there a way that you can reset your mind or get out of the mood?
I have no idea. Like I would say it just comes with me, you know.
Yeah.
There's the same thing, like people ask, how can you drive and just talk? And how did you, like, how long did it take you? And I'm like, yeah, I have it, like I did since beginning, basically.
Yeah.
You know? And I was always goofing with your go-karting or something. I was like always goofing. I was like waving with my hands and doing like stupid things with my friends. And I don't know, like I feel like the thing with the anger or like being mad at something, I think it kind of, I think I'm always working on it.
Yep.
Like I obviously had like bad streams or bad moments where I focus on some stuff, and obviously I try to take the feedback as well, but I don't want to change who I am.
No.
So like I, for example, have people telling me like, you're swearing a lot, you know, and I'm like, mate, I'm like, that's what I am, you know, like that's who I am. You know, if I say bad words, because that's who I am, you know, like I don't want to change myself just because you don't like it and so on.
Yep.
Absolutely. And is the same thing with this, like I always try to like improve in a way that will help me, but it will not like change who I am.
Yep.
And it's the same with the, like as you said, like with the anger, with the incident, you know, like at the moment I'm frustrated because obviously, like this, as I said, like the sim racing is my happiest place.
Yep.
And I go like full into the race. Like I'm basically like role playing. This is a real racing race. Let's go, you know, like this is all in, you know, world championship last lap, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if something like really dumb happens, like for example the Saturday race, I'm like, okay, I'm pissed, you know, like this was absolutely dumb. This was really bad.
Yep.
But then obviously I kind of realized after like few minutes that there are worse things that can happen, right? So at that point I try to like, okay, let's just, you know, let's wake up a little bit and and you know, at least you are healthy right now. So, you know,
that's it.
So
that's,
you know.
And the horrible words I hate to hear people say, but it is true. And you know, my partner says it all the time, is, you know, it's a game, you know, regardless of how real it is, how into it you are, it is sim racing, but it is just a game. It's not like it happened in real life, or as you say, you know, we have our health and things. So no, it's good to hear from someone from a different perspective, because I always feel like it's just me that ends up being in that zone. And then when you speak to other people and you're like, oh, all right, okay, so you suffer from it as well. So that, no, it is good to hear that.
By the way, it's one of the worst thing I hate, when somebody tells you it's just a game.
Oh, I hate you. Oh my god.
I take it from the Jimmy Broban. You know how he has that T-shirt? He has that T-shirt. The cars aren't real, but the racing is.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically that's how I think. You know, like I don't really care. This is a virtual. Like this is.
I know.
This is happening for me right now.
Exactly.
You know,
it's crazy. Yeah, because obviously my room is backs onto our living room, so my partner, she hears me talking all the time. I've got, you know, the foam up on the walls and things like that, try and calm my voice down. But I do commentary for TOGA for a lot of the races, and I get so excited, especially if it's a crash and I turn one torpedoes and things like that. But I come out and she says, how can you get so excited? I'm just like, how can you not? You know, all these things are happening. And so, yeah, absolutely. It is a game, but at the end of the day, it's not like playing World of Warcraft. You know, you know, you spend a lot of money on kit, and, you know, you've spent a lot of practicing on it. So, yeah, absolutely.
My partner does the same though. She's always like shushing me. She's always like, can you be a little bit more quiet? You know, can you be like, I'm like, how am I supposed to talk? You know, she want me to like, hello guys, this is really good race. You know, like I'm happy on a P1. Yeah,
that's right. I know. Oh, I won a race. Woo.
yeah. Good move.
That's right. And that's the thing. You know, you would need a padded cell or something to be able to keep all the noise out, you know, of what you're doing at the time. So obviously you've talked a bit in the past about how you'd love to get back into real life racing. And you're going to the gym, you're getting yourself in the best shape that you can and things like that. Is that still, obviously you said that it's a dream, but I mean, you have driven a Lambo Super Trofeo, a Porsche 718 GT4 and an Alpine A100 GT4. I mean, it's almost like half of that dream actually has become reality for you. How, obviously they're different experiences, different tracks, different cars, but how do you set yourself up for going to the track and knowing you're going to be into a GT4 car and driving around about a track?
But like the Lamborghini especially was very emotional for me, even though it was the least of the experience. But the thing is, I was so basically the last time I have driven a race car was the BMW 130i in 2006.
Yep.
And then I did some go-karting and so on.
Yep.
And then the Lambo in 2020, I think it was.
Yep.
So like that's 14 years basically, So I was like really hyped. I was like really excited, but it was a little shame because like in the email it sounded a little different when we got to the place.
Right. Okay.
Because they were like, okay, you will drive behind a car, you will drive like a bit slower, and there's gonna be only like 4 laps, and I was like, oh. But at the same time, it was like full Lamborghini, Like it was like. I have never been to anything like that, like there were tire warmers and they were like putting the car up on those jacks,
amazing.
And the Italian guys were arguing if I will even fit in the car. They were even arguing if I will fit in the car, removing all the stuff and such.
My God.
Because it was Lambo, they also gave us all the suits, so we had to like have obviously everything great. So like in terms of like emotional experience, like that was like insane. Like I have been like I was like 14 years of waiting for this, and I was like ready to drive and so on. And obviously we drove very carefully because I had to sign a waiver when for all the like the cars I've driven that day. I had to sign like a waiver, and it was like 1 million euro in like worth of possible damages.
Oh my God.
So obviously insured and everything, like very safe environment, but it's still like obviously like you look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was mega. That was mega. But yeah, I was really fat. I was probably more my extreme.
Right. Okay.
And then nothing happened because there was a COVID, right? For next like 2 years. And then I got the Porsche experience with the G4, which was also I would say like it's always like it's not as I was saying. It's all about money, right? And in the email it's like, hey, you're gonna drive 23 laps. It's gonna be amazing. And then you arrive and they're like, oh, you will drive free. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, because like I'm like, okay, because there are other people who are paying for the same thing, so you cannot have it for free.
No,
I was like, oh damn, But then you drive instructor and he's telling you how to drive, and he's like actually like helping you to go faster. And you are like, wow, this is like I'm driving freaking Porsche, and then I was like, I was in I was in a Porsche. I was really fat, but I was already like working out a bit.
Sure.
So it was a little better.
Yep.
So I felt a little better, and I saw the improvement. And then going to Alpine, I was already like 10 kilo lighter.
Right. Okay.
And even though I was like super obese, like there's no absolutely like no sugarcoating it, very obese. Going to Alpine, but it felt like 100 times better already because I was like much more in shape. I was working out 3 times per week. So even though I was fat, I was at least like, like I didn't have any problem with anything.
Sure, yeah.
And it was like, that was so excellent because I driven like, I don't know, 20 something laps on Manicure and in a very safe environment with the instructor, and so on. And it was really, really, really good, like unbelievable, I wish anybody could try that because it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then I fell in depression, kind of, because after Alpine, I got home and I was like, okay, nothing is happening. And then there's in the next 6 months or 7 months, nothing's going to happen.
Yep.
Like in a year or whatever, nothing's going to happen. And I fell in a depression. Started eating a bit, again. And I gained like a bit of weight again. And now in the last 1.5 months, I kicked myself in the ass and I was like, you know what? You want to be a racing driver? Look like a racing driver.
Absolutely.
So that's basically my target right now for hopefully within the next year to look a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, how is the gym going? Are you still going 3 times a week?
Yeah, I'm going 3 times per week. And for the past 5 weeks, I have lost, maybe checking, like over 5 kilos.
Wow, congratulations.
In 5 weeks now, because I literally like I was like, okay, you know what, just go full in. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I was always I actually back in the day, like 10 years ago, I was running a lot and I lost almost 40 kilos in 2 years.
Wow, that's
I was running marathons. I even went to China to run a half marathon in China.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Jeez. And I was like, so basically I went from like 130 kilos to 90.
Wow.
and I was like super in shape. I was like running a lot, and that's where I met my girlfriend.
All right,
and,
okay.
And then obviously, you know, you get in a relationship.
Yeah,
you
get relaxed.
there.
Yeah.
And during the COVID, I actually gained like massive amount of weight. And a massive amount. And I mean, there's no sugarcoating. Like that's how it is. Like I got fat. And now now I'm trying to get better. And I always was lacking the amount of motivation. Because I knew what I have to do, but I was like lazy to do it, because I was like, I know what I have to do for how long I need to do it, but I don't want to. You know? this hamburger is way too good. You know. And yeah, now I kicked my. I was like I was really on a good weight in March, but then I gained like, I don't know, 6 kilos, 7 kilos up.
Sure.
And now basically in the 5 weeks, I'm extremely like strict on myself with the food and everything. And I went almost like 5.5 kilos, or almost 6 kilos down. And
wow.
Yeah, my trainer is finally happy. I'm happy, and I feel great. And excellent. I just want to keep going as long as I can right now.
Yeah, and that'll give you a boost as well. Seeing the fact you can do that, it's like, okay, I'm on the right path with that. I now need to start looking at X next to try and push your way forward from that. I mean, let's face it, Jimmy Broadbent has proved, you know, you can go from sim racing into real life racing. You know, it's now becoming an almost a normal thing to do that. So I mean, do you get inspiration from Jimmy to see how far he's come from the days of the shed and the you know, things like that? Does that inspire you to keep going?
Yeah, 100%. Like basically Jimmy is like where you want to be.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like he has a successful channel. He's real racing. He bought a house.
Yep.
He have like, I don't know, 100 cars and stuff like that. And that's basically, you're looking at it and you're like, wow, I would like to, like, it's possible.
Yep.
So you basically see, like, if there would be no one with 800,000 subscribers, right, in a sim racing, you'd be like, okay, it's probably not possible to get higher because sim racing is small. But when you see Super GT, when you see Jimmy, you are like, okay, it's actually possible to be big in sim racing.
Absolutely.
So it's extra motivation, and especially with his racing, like basically, like it's easy to say, like everybody knows how Jimmy drive, right?
Yeah.
You can tell that he's not a top esport driver, but he's decent.
Yep, absolutely.
But in a race car after 2 years, like I loved my most favorite content was watching him go from like first test of Praga, becoming better and better. And now when you watch his, like, 3 years ago video driving on a track day, and now you watch him drive a track day in his Miata or something, you're like, that's a huge difference, you know? That's like that is not Jimmy anymore. It's completely different. Like, that's a racing driver already.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep, absolutely. You just look at him and you go, wow, there's and you can also see a bit of maturity as well, where he has obviously had to be a bit of less of a, I'm not calling him a goofball, but that, you know, that's what someone else called him, but, you know, a bit less of that and a bit more, but he still has obviously his fun times and, you know, need to have a laugh. But, you know, it's good to see that he's kicked the door down and basically said, look, I've done it. And, you know, I'm going to help other people to do it, because you do have some really fast esports racers, you know, whereas Darren McCormick or, you know, yourself or anyone else, the opportunity's there. It's just everything needs to fall into place.
This is my biggest dream, basically. Like, if anybody asks me, like, what is my, like, sim racing dream, it's basically, obviously I want to real race, that's like 100%. But like my biggest dream would be, like, I can imagine if I would have, like, I don't know, 500,000 subscribers, I can imagine with the amount of visibility and such, I would like to take the sim racers are now, like, as you said, Dara and such, and put them in a race car, at least for a testing. You know, like,
absolutely.
Like a book a day of on, I don't know, let's say Donington. You have some GT4 car, which is quite affordable in terms of, like, obviously it's expensive as hell, but it's like quite affordable and safe car at the same time. I would just take, I don't know, George Budby, Dara McCormack, and people like that, like people around me, and the fast people I can see, for example, in ACC community. Like 10 people, and we just give them the opportunity to at least drive the car, and that's basically like my dream in the future, like anywhere possible. If I ever make it like big, you know, like Jimmy is, that's 100% what I want to do, because I just want to, like, the sim racing is me, you know, like,
absolutely.
Sim racing for me is the sim racing for me. Like, I just want to, if I real race, I want to stream Monday to Friday and then race on weekend, you know, or something. But
absolutely, and as I say, the opportunity is now becoming more mainstream for that. How did you find going from being a sim racer to then getting behind the wheel? Obviously, the Lambo, you were told you had to short shift, or there was restrictions as to what you could do. But did you feel that your sim racing style was easily used into the actual real cars?
Yeah, like 100%. Like that's undeniable, you know. Like the thing is basically if you put a sim racing in a race car, and obviously if he's not, I don't want to say dumb or anything. Like if he races at least like a normally,
Yep.
he knows what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
He knows he's supposed to go to the corner. He needs to brake under like at a certain amount.
Yep.
He needs to downshift to a certain gear and go through the corner. He knows what is apex.
Yep.
He knows what is the racing line and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I was driving with the Lambo, Porsche, or even Alpine, like the first thing people tell you, like the people who are like training or teaching the others, the first thing they will tell you, if you take someone from the street and put him in a race car, the first thing he will do is either go super fast into the corner, or he will not even know that he needs to downshift. He will like stay on the sixth gear, or short shift and so on. But the sim racer, like he knows to rev the car, upshift, downshift. He needs to downshift to brake the car. He needs to hit the apex and so on. So like basically as a sim racer, you already know like 70% of the things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going into the race car, and then the thing you need to learn. That's probably the biggest shocker for anyone going to race cars: the braking.
Right. Okay.
Because the brakes are like that's uncomparable.
Right. Okay.
That's like it's hard to explain, but it's like that's completely different world.
Right. Okay. Right.
And then obviously getting trust, in the car. Like getting trust in a downforce, for example, getting trust in a grip, and so on, and starting from like from that and going up, But I think if you take any sim racer, not only he knows the track, but he knows like the lines and everything. It's already like that's so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the braking, so is it obviously in a real car you get all the lateral movements and your body is feeling and experiencing everything that sim racers can't to a certain degree, but is it more the feel of the brake, or is it the pressure you're having to put in the brake that's totally different? Is it?
It's like everything all together. You need to like even if I would have like a 100-kilo brake pedal, it is still different than the way in a car. You know, like the way you have to press the pedal. And the amount like of the force you have to put into it, and at the same time the car is kicking in, dancing. The car is not like going straight. It's just dancing a bit. You feel all the force and everything, and that's basically like all several things all together.
Oh, no.
It was like the first thing, like when I drove the Porsche, I didn't know obviously how to brake. So I was driving like I was braking like sim racing. So I was braking like 60-50% and braking very long time because I was braking early. And then I was and basically the first thing guy told me was like, okay, you need to like the biggest issue so far you've done is the braking. You're braking too little. You know? And then we went for Alpine, and basically I was going to Alpine. I was like, you know what? I don't care about a lap time. I don't care at all. I want to learn how to brake with this car properly. And I told the teacher or the coach driver to tell me like, what am I supposed to do? And he was like, just slammed like because it's ABS. And it's a race car. It's like a little bit different than normal road car. And he was like, just hit as fast as you can. Like you have to hit the brake pedal as hard as you can, basically. And then like. Before the apex, obviously trail brake. And I was like, okay. And like the first time you're doing it, you're like, you press it on 80%. You're like literally like you feel yourself like, I don't know, imagine like as you're pressing your pedal as much as hard as you can, and you're pushing your back into the seat. And it was only 80%.
Oh,
and I was like, oh
wow.
my God. And he was like, okay, you need to do 100. You need to do 100.
Jeez.
So then you go again, and you're like, you finally reach the 100, but you're like, holy fuck, like this is insane. Like I'm literally like after like 40 minutes, my left leg, even though I do work out, my left leg was already like, oh my God, I'm gonna get a cramps or something, like cramps because and so on, So like I cannot even imagine like any like Formula One, for example, or whatever. It must be absolutely unbelievable.
Absolutely. You'd be like, oh, why did I skip leg day 3 weeks ago? Oh man, no, I mean that I can't even imagine what the experience was like. Obviously, it's a real car. Obviously, you have to sign waivers to say, this car costs X hundred thousands of pounds. That must be in the back of your mind, going around the track, is it? Because obviously some racing, if you crash, well, you just hit reset, restart, and away you go again. So was that a big factor in the back of your mind at all times, or did that then, once you got settled, that kind of disappeared a little bit?
So it's like in a way that you on one side should not think about it too much, because if you overthink it, there is more possibility of you make a mistake.
Sure. Yep.
So you have to just focus on driving, don't focus on do not crash, don't focus on crashing. But in a way, obviously, when I was getting these opportunities, for example, like with the Porsche or Lambo or something, basically the first thing in my head was like, I'm not, even if I do the best lap in my life, nobody will care. Nobody.
Yep.
There's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
There's not if it would be if I would be going for a racing event and we'll be doing Friday practice and quali and then Saturday race or something, that would be completely different. But because this is just like a experience opportunity, I personally go into it okay, I want to learn how to brake. I want to learn how to improve on myself a little bit. And basically you can only damage yourself. So basically if I will spin or if I will crash it or beach it or damage it, maybe I will not get invited again, you know? So I would rather drive a little bit slower and build up and just show them that I can actually handle the car, I can drive the car, you know? And then maybe I will get another opportunity the next time or something, you know? But,
yeah, absolutely. It's the same as Formula One, you know. You see the drivers. I'm not going to name any names for that. You know, crash more than they actually finish a race. They don't get invited back. You know, they're bye. Exactly. You know, we'll get a safer driver. But your mindset is obviously I want to get as much out of this experience as possible in terms of I want to learn how to brake properly. I don't care about the lap times. I mean, that to me, a lot of people would just become overwhelmed with the whole experience. To be like, oh my god, that was just a blur. But you're doing that.
It is blur though. That day is so short. It's always so short. You know? Like it's so short.
And the A100, was that with why is his name just suddenly James Baldwin? Yeah, so with that, so I mean, obviously he has done, you know, world's famous gamer or fastest gamer, sorry, and things like that. He's had experience of the GT3 when he was racing on the McLaren and things. Did you find that he had a different approach to you when you...
Oh yeah. Like James basically he's a done racing driver, right? Like he have driven GT3 cars, he have done 24 hours Spa, he has done full season British GT. So his experience compared to mine is immeasurable, you know? It's like comparing James to Marcello, you know? Like Marcello drives 50 races per year, you know? And then you have someone who driven 20 years ago, you know, or something like that. That's like unmeasurable. You know, you basically starting over. You know, you started completely from. I realized that basically I was like, okay, I'm starting completely from scratch because like there's nothing that connects me to what I did 20 years ago. Absolutely nothing.
That's right.
And the experience with the gyms was fantastic. I was like so grateful that we did it together because like he was like. He's like, as I said, like he's a done driver, you know, like he driven all these cars and he knows exactly how to drive this car. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna try to beat him or get anywhere close basically to him. But because we had like a guys look at the telemetry and such, I want to learn. You know, I want to learn. And we had like a very limited time, obviously. Like obviously there's something different if you spend 2 test days. And you're really focusing on a lap time, right? Like we were here, we were not focused on lap time, it was just, you know, drive and don't crash basically. And me watching James, like how he was like obviously instantly on pace. And instantly going fast. And then we were comparing the data and such. I was very happy because like obviously I was way off the pace compared to him because I was not much like the only thing I was losing in the corners because he was carrying more speed. You know? But I was very happy when by the end of the day we were braking in the same place, we were braking the same amount. So basically the thing I told myself that I want to know exactly. I learned, you know. I was like, okay, now I want another day so I can actually focus on a lap, for example. You know,
that's
and, like,
right. It's like you've warmed up and now you're ready for actually going and doing it.
Yeah, because the guys were also trying to like, they were like, you know, like James was driving alone, I was driving with instructor because with the experience.
Yeah.
So then the guys were like, okay, you had like 120 kilo extra ballast, you know, as a VOP. And so I was like, you know what, that's great. You know, you trying to save my ego or
That's
something.
Right.
But I just know I want all ups. And I even told my girlfriend, I was like 2 months ago, my first time ever on Nordschleife.
Sure, yep.
And I love that track. It's a dream track. And I told her like I told her, what if I save a little bit of money and next year I will go like, let's say once per month to drive, because I would like to be good at the track.
Yeah.
You know? She was like, yeah, just like save money and just do it, because I was like, I know exactly what I want.
Yep.
I just basically need money.
I know that.
I need like $10 million. You know?
If you just send a donation to jardier.com, you'll be fine. Oh man.
Correct lottery numbers. You know?
Yeah,
so,
that's right. Exactly. I know, and it will always, unfortunately, be money. You know, I mean, whether you're a starting off a sim racer, you know, my rig I've built out of wood and things like that, just to try and save money and things. So it will always be down to that money. And thank you very much for listening to our latest podcast. So part 2 is done. Part 3 of chatting with Jardier will be next week, Monday next week at 5 PM British summertime. Until then, stay safe, take care, bye bye.